Will now come to order. Hello, I'm Marcia Herbert, President of the Board of Education. I would like to welcome you to the July 12th, 2023 board meeting. In keeping with the board's commitment to open communication with the community, this meeting is being live streamed on the CCPS website at www.carrollk12.org and broadcast live on Channel 21. We are also recording this meeting so that it can be accessed on demand on our website and broadcast throughout the month on Channel 21. Public participation will be held at approximately 5:15. Speakers will be directed into the boardroom from the building lobby and are allotted 3 minutes to address the board. As a reminder, please silence all cell phones and other devices. Board members, please turn off your microphones when you are not speaking. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by?
I'll second.
By Ms. Battaglia. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
By Ms. Battaglia, seconded by Mr. Whistler. Comments, questions, corrections? Seeing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. And at this time, we will have a retirement recognition. So I guess we all need to go down to in front of the dais.
And Mr. Diaz can move forward to the podium. Thank you.
No, I don't.
Good afternoon, board members, Dr. McCabe. It is always an honor to recognize all of our retirees for their hard work and dedication throughout their careers with Carroll County Public Schools. This year, we are marking the retirement of 109 employees who have given a combined total of 2,757 years of service to our schools. To those who are here with us this evening and those who were unable to attend, we are indebted to you for the incredible work you have done over the past many years. You can take great pride in knowing that you have touched countless lives and had a tremendous impact on our students and our community. We are grateful to you for the service and commitment you brought to Carroll County Public Schools each and every day, and you will truly be missed. Please know how much you are appreciated. Retirees, as I read your name, please come forward to the side. Our first retiree this evening is Franklin Baker, telecommunications engineer, central office, 20 years of service. Our next retiree, Sophia Becker, occupational therapist, Runnymede Elementary School, 31 years of service. Anna Bible, mathematics teacher, Northwest Middle School, 31 years of service. Jeffrey Fernandez, earth science teacher, Shiloh Middle School, 30 years of service. Lana Furby, music teacher, Manchester Elementary School, 32 years of service. Shelia Green, special education assistant, special education, 25 and half. Sheila. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me start over. Miss Sheila Green, special education assistant, special education, 25 and a half years of service. Melissa Hilliard, special education resource teacher, Spring Garden Elementary School, 24 years of service. Lowell Romeo, grade 5 teacher, Linton Springs Elementary School, 25 years of service. And at this time, are there any other retirees who perhaps entered the room a little bit later that we have not called? No? Okay. Thank you to all, and best wishes for a happy, healthy, and rewarding retirement. Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Good to see you. All right, at this time, we will continue on with our public comments. Ms. Battaglia.
In order to have an orderly presentation of comments by the public, the following guidelines apply. Speakers with a connection to CCPS will be allowed to address the board for the allotted 3 minutes. Only those speakers that have registered online and have been notified by the Communications Department will be permitted to speak. Priority will be given to those citizens that have been addressing the board about an item on the current agenda. Citizens not appearing in person for public comment can write to the board through email or U.S. mail. Public participation is not intended to be a question and answer session. However, if citizens have specific questions, the superintendent will assign a staff member to make contact during the board meeting to arrange a time to respond to questions. The superintendent and board reserve the right to correct misinformation presented as factual after the conclusion of public participation period. Statements to the board should relate to a recent agenda item, an agenda item that is expected to appear in the future, or a matter of general policy over which the board has authority. Personnel matters, pending appeals, the actions or statements of individual staff, or items related to an employee negotiations are not appropriate topics and may not be discussed. The board has scheduled time on the agenda for public participation at approximately 5:15. The board reserves the right to limit the number of speakers on a particular topic so that all topics can be addressed. Additionally, the board retains the discretion to allow additional speakers as it deems appropriate. The board is allowing no more than an hour for public participation. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less. All comments should be directed to board members at the dais. Citizens may only address the board with their individual comments. Citizens may not stand in for another person or a group and read their comments. When the allotted time expires, the speaker is permitted to complete a sentence. Citizens may leave any handouts for board members on the table in the back of the boardroom. Please do not approach the dais. Additionally, the public may not display signs or posters during the board meeting. In lieu of signs, or if you are unable to complete your comments in the allotted time, individuals are encouraged to submit remarks to the board in writing. Those seated in the audience are asked to be respectful of the speaker and refrain from commenting to the speaker or the board members. First speaker is Kit Hart.
Good evening. I'd like to start off by thanking each of you on the board for all that you do to ensure that the students of Carroll County Public Schools are well educated and safe. I know that your roles as board members come with significant challenges with which you all handle with grace and professionalism. You are aware that there are several books that we have submitted reconsideration requests for. Each and every one of them depicts graphic sex or rape through visuals and/or textual descriptions. That is the only criteria we chose for selecting these books. When we began exposing passages from these books to the public, parents were appalled. The vast majority of parents trust that the material that their children check out in the school media center is quality literature that challenges, educates, or uplifts the student. Instead, what we have uncovered is that there is a large portion of material that would be flagged on Twitter for being inappropriate content. Every media center has physical limitations. Not every book can be included. So it is the job of the specialist to curate a collection of material that is developmentally appropriate, enriching and inspiring, and above all, educational. If a parent believes their child needs to hear about a man raping a boy, or would benefit from reading about a teen's fist being jammed up his girlfriend's vagina, that parent is free to request that type of material from the public library or order it on Amazon. Trust me, I didn't want to say those words, but that's the kind of stuff that we're finding. The goal of the school system is to educate, full stop. The fact that Carroll County has one of the highest literacy rates in the state, with only 35% of fourth graders proficient in reading, is pretty abysmal. Our media centers should be laser focused on literacy. We have some major gaps to fill if we don't want a generation of graduates lacking the basic skills to read. Please fill those gaps with literature which inspires, elevates, and enlightens. The students of CCPS are our future, and we owe them at least that much. Thank you.
Next speaker is Caitlin Edmondson.
Good evening. Hope everyone's having a good summer so far. It's good to see you all. Thank you for all that you do. All right, so protecting the innocence of children should be the #1 priority for every parent and every person in our community. Removing sexualized reading materials from our public school library should not be a divisive topic. It should be considered common sense, so I'm honestly astounded that there would be any opposition to this request from parents to protect children from reading books and having access to pornographic materials in our schools. As someone who was sexually abused as a child, I can recognize the grooming tactics that books like these present. It gives an adult a seemingly harmless way to start having conversations with a child about sex and sexual arousal. I can't reiterate enough how truly dangerous that is. It allows children to read books with not just sexual content, but abusive, derogatory sexual content. Once you read the words in some of these books, you can't unsee them. They are ingrained. I'm assuming that's the point of them. And the damage that these images and imagery can cause is put into motion. Parents requesting that these materials not be available to children does not equate to banning books, as some would like to claim. These books are available for purchase, but I find it more concerning that there are parents who would actively choose these books for their children to read. I'm so proud of the Joyful Warriors and Moms for Liberty because they do not tolerate the sexualization of children. To end, I just want to recommend that everyone see The Sound of Freedom that is playing in theaters right now. It's about child sex trafficking. It's one of the most grotesque atrocities being committed in our world today. God's children are not for sale. Thank you, and God bless.
Next speaker is Jessica Garland.
Excuse me. I spoke for the board in May to address the need for a policy that
to ensure that only age-appropriate books are available to our students. I am not here to advocate for banning books. The definition of banning is to prohibit publication or make publication illegal. All 50 of the book titles that were submitted by Moms for Liberty for reconsideration are available on Amazon and at your public library. To simplify my point, if there are 1,000 biographies about George Washington and a librarian only selects 10, did she ban the other 990? I think we all know the answer. I'm here tonight to shed another perspective on the dire need for a revised policy. I could sit up here all night and spew facts and research about the damage done to children that are exposed to adult sexual content before they're mature enough, but I'd be astounded if everyone in this room was not already aware. Instead, I want to present another line of reasoning. Playboy magazine was the recipient of numerous awards from Penn USA, a distinguished literary organization, for their 50-plus years of support for champion writing. Most would argue that no one buys Playboy magazine for the writing, but apparently they do. The most noteworthy authors that have written for Playboy include Jack Kerouac, John Steinbeck, Margaret Atwood, and Arthur C. Clarke. No one would doubt their literary value as authors, but as a whole, the Playboy magazine does not belong in schools because it has adult content. The film Basic Instinct won 2 Oscars in 1993. Who doesn't remember that one, right? An erotic thriller that depicts sex as a contact sport was recognized for its artistic and technical merit. It grossed over $400 million. No one argues that that film was not a box office hit. Does it belong in schools? Why not? It won Oscars. Probably not, because it's not appropriate for children. I'm not here to argue that the 50 books that have been submitted for reconsideration do not have any literary value. I've actually read a couple of the titles, and some of them are extremely well written by authors that are so talented, I can actually visualize the gang rapes, the child abuse, and the sexual intimacy in my head as I read their descriptive words. Because they are well written and have received accolades from the press, does this mean that the subject is appropriate for our children? There are members in our community that are arguing that by removing these books, I'm controlling their child's access to this material. And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. But I'll say it louder for those in the back who can't hear me. If you want your children to read these books, they are available online and at your public library. Just because some parents feel their child is not mature enough to handle a book that details fisting a young girl's vagina against her will before brutally beating her, does that mean that all parents agree? Perhaps our schools would be better off consulting the legal statutes on this. I'm here tonight to request that our school abide by the laws of our state that prohibit adult content of sexual and obscene nature from being exposed to children. If you do not agree with my request, then please start stocking our shelves with Playboy magazines and R-rated movies. The fact that one type of art has a rating system whereas literature does not should not grant our librarians subjective authority to regulate what questionable content is appropriate for our children. Those topics are better left to the experts, the parents, and our taxpayer dollars are better left for more age-appropriate material.
And our last speaker is Belinda Lawson.
My name is Belinda Lawson. Let's talk books. I've been trying to understand why there are adults in our school system and parents that think it's okay for kids to go to school and be able to take out a book that shows them graphic details of little boys' penises being sucked by adult men or detailed descriptions of how to have their first sexual encounter. The books being submitted for review are completely inappropriate. They are a pedophile's dream and a kid's nightmare, especially those who have been molested or have endured past trauma. These books normalize the behavior of sick adults and confuses kids on whether or not it is okay. I can't even explain the type of emotional triggers that some of these books could cause. Almost every single parent that I have discussed this subject with are completely against this type of material being in school libraries and underage children having access to them. We live in a country that is free, and any parent, as Jessica said, has the option of going to a library, a public library, and accessing any type of material they want their child to read. However, I am not okay with my child having access to inappropriate materials without my permission. Just because it is in the school library does not make it okay. I want to read a few examples for you to understand why parents are not okay with their kids being exposed to X-rated material in the school environment around adults we don't know personally, and we certainly don't have access to criminal histories or employment records. I'm tired of hearing stories about teachers being charged with crimes after the kids have already been victimized. There is no reason for these types of books to be in school libraries. The first book I want to read to you, the title is called Lucky. The author is Alice Sebold, and the schools is in Liberty and FSK. This is page 5. My focus became acute. I stared harder than ever at him. He began to knead his fist against the opening of my vagina, inserted his fingers into it, 2 or 3 or 4 at a time. Something tore. I began to bleed there. I was wet now. It made him excited. He was intrigued. As he worked his whole fist up into my vagina and pumped it, I went into my brain. Nice white titties, he said, and the words made me give them up, lobbing off each part of my body as he claimed ownership, the mouth, the tongue, my breast. He reached out and grabbed them, my breast, in his 2 hands. He plied them against and squeezed them, manipulating them right down to my ribs, twisting. I watched him as he unzipped his pants and let them fall around his ankles. He lay down on top of me and started humping. He worked away on me, reaching down to work with his penis. I stared right into his eyes. I was too afraid not to. He called me bitch.
Please finish your
He
thought.
told me I was dry. I'm sorry, I said. I never stopped apologizing. I'm a virgin, I said. This should not be in our schools. Thank you.
Dr. McCabe.
I just want to say thank you for bringing these descriptions and excerpts to our attention. We've been having discussions here at central office as to what you and some other parents have brought to our attention. What we are doing at this point is looking at our processes by which books are selected for the media centers, as well as making use of our normal reconsideration process. So we have an established process for the selection, evaluation, and adoption of instructional materials. And as part of this process, there are guidelines for reconsideration of any of our instructional and supplemental materials. Books in our media centers fall under what we would consider supplemental materials, and any citizen, parent, student, teacher, or school administrator may submit a request for reconsideration. We have received approximately 30 requests for reconsideration of books in our media centers in the past few weeks. We are following the established process for reconsideration for each of those requests. The requests for reconsideration are heard by the Reconsideration Committee. This superintendent-appointed committee is chaired by the Supervisor of Library Media, who we have sitting in the back, Ms. Kathleen Brunette, and it's comprised of 2 school media specialists, 2 school-based administrators, 1 instructional supervisor, 1 teacher at the appropriate level for the material, 3 parents, and 3 students if it's a high school book. It would be high school students on the committee. So again, I just want to thank you for bringing these books to our attention. Anytime that a parent or a community member brings something to our attention, it gives us the opportunity to look at what we have, look at the processes that we have in place, and really consider the points that you're making. And I think I speak for the board when I say that I am concerned by some of the descriptions and excerpts that were read here this evening. So thank you again.
Ms. Savigny.
Ms. McCabe, is there any consideration for looking at the policies that are used for selecting that instructional material? Because, as was pointed out by one of the speakers, if something like that starts on page 5 of a book, clearly that's something that should never have found its way onto a shelf in our school libraries. So what is the process that needs to be followed? And do we have a good process in place and it just hasn't been followed, or do we need to be more explicit in that process?
I suspect a little bit of both has occurred in the past. You know, maybe the process that we have in place hasn't always been followed, or you know, as we sat down and started talking about this, you know, one of the things we thought was, you know, perhaps the process that we have in place isn't comprehensive enough. And so what we're going to be doing is looking at the process we use for supplemental materials and revising that. We think it's time that it be revised anyway. And then we're going to place more accountability in the process of selecting materials by the media specialists themselves. And so we're in the process of doing that this summer, as well as the reconsiderations. I have to say, with 30 reconsiderations, it's a lot to take on in a very short amount of time, and we want to do a good job with each of the items that have been brought forward to us. So yes, not only are we looking at the books themselves, we're looking at our processes. We see the need to revise those processes, as well as put some accountability into the selection process.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. All right, now we will move on to employee groups. And welcome back. It's going to take her a few minutes to get here. Yep, she's got to get that machine, she's got to get her wheels rolling.
Yeah, Staples just got removed yesterday, so
Okay.
I'm going back to the scooter for this. This is not very scooter accessible. Okay, good evening, Mrs. Let me start over here. There we go. Good evening, Superintendent McCabe, board members, and I usually say commissioner, but there's not one there. I am Celeste Jordan, president of CCA. I was pleased today to watch the joint work session between the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education earlier. I am always hopeful when people work together in the best interest of Carroll County students. I would like to elaborate on one topic of discussion. When the blueprint calls for a 60-40 split for teaching, that does not mean 40% of the day the educator is not working. It roughly means that an educator will be the teacher of record for 60% of the day. Educators would still, of course, have their self-directed planning time, as we do now, and then for that other part of the 40%, in addition to the self-directed time, educators would be engaged in a variety of professional activities. Some educators might use that time to work with students who need one-on-one help or small group instruction to help close achievement gaps. We could have classrooms that are co-taught by 2 educators, which would be great for some of our neediest students. There would be time to offer support to the newer educators so that we do retain those educators, especially with the ones with conditional certificates, which came up today. Professional development could be offered for people. All right. The administrators will not have to be in the classroom as teachers of record because of a recent House Bill 770, which got rid of the mandate that administrators will have to teach 20%. The vice principals will have to teach 20% of the time, and they will not be a teacher of record. So that is not really a concern at this point. I think we can all agree this aspect of the blueprint is a heavy lift. It will take us working together to achieve it. As someone who's been in the classroom for 28 years, it's hard for me to imagine how it will work, especially given the educator shortage. I do think about how great it would have been as a first-year teacher to have time during the school day to talk to another colleague to help me. I also think about the time I collaborated with a newer educator who shared an idea that she learned about in college that actually improved student achievement in my classes because we had the time to collaborate. However, education should change. The school day should not look the same as it did when Laura Ingalls Wilder was teaching. It should not look the same when Mrs. Herbert and Dr. Dorsey were teaching, and it should not look the same as it was in 1995 when I started. So we have to embrace a little bit of change here. While recovering at home, I took the time to look at the June 2023 CCPS professional personnel transaction document. I was clearly bored. There were 55 resignations of educators, not necessarily in the CCEA unit, but definitely educator qualified. Of those 55, 53% worked for CCPS less than 5 years. 38% worked between 5 to 15 years, and 9% had over 15 years. It costs money to train people when they come to Carroll County, even if they were educators somewhere else. We cannot continue to be a training ground for other places. We need to see a return on our investment in the new hires by retaining more of these educators. I want you to know that CCA is willing to work with CCPS to address why educators are leaving and to assist in retention. We need to know why teachers are leaving, so maybe we can keep more educators in this county. On that same June report, there were 36 of the 100 and some retirements. For those 36, I know Mr. Diaz gave some really bigger numbers for me, but the 36, they had a total of 950 years of experience with an average of 26 years of experience. 16 of the 36 worked for the CCPS for 30 years or more. I'm going to give a special shout out to Ralph Schermonte, who put in 44 years. CCPS has lost quite a bit of experience with this. What makes me pause is that 20 retirees worked for less than 30 years. It makes me wonder, why does someone retire at 28 years? Why do they leave at 25 years? And we need to know why that is. Why aren't they sticking around for 2 more years? And again, we're happy to work with you and try to figure all this out to help retain our new educators and to retain our experienced educators. I also do want to take the time to acknowledge all the CCPS retirees. Your hard work and dedication to the students of Carroll County is appreciated. One of the hardest part about being an educator is that we often don't see the results of what we do. Be assured that you all made a difference in the life of a child. Henry Adams said, educators affects eternity. They can never know where their influence stops. Thank you, and it's a joy to be back.
Thank you. Okay, no, we don't ask questions.
My name was mentioned.
I know, that's true. No, okay, go ahead, Dr. Dorsey.
No, I just wanted to comment, Ms. Jordan.
Backing up.
Okay.
Good now.
Okay, I just wanted to thank you for using Laura Ingalls Wilder as the anchor of that statement instead of Mrs. Herbert and myself. So there's someone before us.
And they still have to blow up the balls, and don't forget that.
I have a question for clarification for staff, and I appreciate Ms. Jordan mentioning. I was under the impression that the bill for removing the 25% requirement for RAPs failed in the legislative session. Didn't it fail?
No. I don't
It did
think so.
pass?
I thought it, yeah,
It did pass.
but I don't,
We might disagree slightly in that it did not completely remove the time element.
Right.
It modified the language surrounding the time element to make it a little less clear that it was strictly teaching, but maybe other teaching-like activities.
Okay, and then the other thing was, with regards to the 60/40 description, and I appreciate the points that Ms. Jordan raised, are those elements she raised, are those clearly articulated and mandated by the AIB, or are these things that she's thinking will happen? Because again, I was under the impression that the 60/40 split was clear. You're teaching 60% of the day, you're not teaching 40% of the day. Teaching in a classroom setting.
So good question. The legislation itself, both not just the report, but the law itself does sort of articulate what some of those other professional activities, and I think either other professional activities or other professional duties is the terminology in the law might entail, and it's many of the things that Ms. Jordan mentioned. I guess in a global way, I would say all of that in terms of the mandate to bargain wages, hours, and working conditions is subject to collective bargaining. So Celeste and I might slightly disagree on the fringes of, we always slightly disagree on the fringes.
Mrs. Herbert, if I could. The specific language in the bill referenced by Ms. Jordan, it took out the word teach in the classroom with respect to assistant principals, but in its place it says that the assistant principals must participate in classroom activity involving direct interactions with students for at least 20% of the day. So that goes along with what Mr. O'Neill said, so that for 20% of the day, the assistant principals must participate in classroom activity involving direct interactions with students.
And that's my concern. I mean, our APs are already overburdened as it is, in my opinion. Thank you.
all right. And now, we're going to have a report from the student government. She's sitting there patiently waiting. Thank you, dear.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for your time. My name is Flamati Fofana. I'm a rising senior at Liberty High School and your CCSGA president for the 2023 to 2024 school year. Although our executive board has not yet met in person, on July 3rd, we had a fun virtual game night over Zoom. So that was a really fun time to be able to get to know each other and things like that. We finalized our summer meeting dates to plan our calendar, as well as our advanced retreat and our fall General Assembly. The dates will be Friday, August 4th from 9 to 11, Wednesday, August 9th from 1 to 3, Monday, August 14th from 1 to 3, and then Wednesday, August 16th from 1 to 3. We're trying something a little bit different this year, and we're going to be having a CCSGA Staff Development Day on August 9th, and this is to help teach new staffers to CCSGA the basics about the organization, set expectations, and create direct goals that staff members can work towards during their term. On August 1st and 2nd, I'll be attending MESC or the Maryland Association of Student Councils Advanced Retreat and Executive Board meeting in Montgomery County, where I'll be giving the regional report for CCSGA. And if you have a student interested in learning more about student leadership and presentational skills, please sign them up for MASC Advance on the MD Stuco webpage by July 25th. And thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will have our board reports here, and we are going to start out with our new student representative.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone has had a good summer so far. Probably busy for you guys. This month, we have been doing a lot of planning for the upcoming year with ideas such as school visits with the CCSGA president and us, and wanting to speak to students more directly this year. MASC, the Maryland Association of Student Councils, is hosting their advance soon as well on August 2nd and August 3rd, I think, and there will also be an upcoming meeting for training the student members on the board, which I will be attending soon. This month has mostly been about planning for the future and learning, so I can't wait to see how the upcoming year with the student representatives and the student members of the board from around the state meet up and what we plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Battaglia.
All right, I'll make it quick. Just a couple different events I attended, but most importantly, gearing up for the 4-H fair that's coming up starting on July 29th through April 5th. I would like to invite any of my fellow public officials that would like to be part of the dunking booth. So just in case somebody wants to come throw some balls my way and try to drown me, I will be in the dunking booth on July 31st from 5 until 8 p.m. And on, yes, July 31st. And then on August 2nd,
write down.
11 till 2. So the idea is the different clubs, they're having the dunking booth, and whatever money they raise goes back to that specific club. So if anybody wants to participate, contact Becky Ridgway at the Carroll County Extension Office to find out what time you can help out at or any club you would like to help with raising funds for. The cake auction is on August 2nd in the evening, so make sure you come out and try to bid on a cake. Hard-working, good tasting cakes. I love what our kids do here in this county. And then the livestock auction is on August 4th. So you can, again, contact Becky Ridgway about how you could participate in the livestock auction and stock your freezer. I'm finishing my Introduction to Cultural Anthropology class tonight. I have a final to finish up, so let's get this rolling. And then I'm currently in week 5 of 8 of my Anthropology, Health, Illness, and Healing class. So I'm excited that my college career is continuing, and I'm almost done.
All right. Dr. Dorsey.
Very short report for this evening. On July 11th, I met with the MABE Conference Planning Committee, and we just are finalizing plans for this year's conference, which will be taking place in October. On today, this morning, I attended a MABE Board of Directors meeting, followed by the joint meeting with the commissioners, and again, just a nice plug-in for both our group as well as the Board of County Commissioners for really working hard to pull off our joint meetings so that we can collaborate, share ideas, and the bottom line is that I think both sides were really ready and willing to move forward together, and that's important. So thank you.
Mr. Whistler.
Hi, good evening. Is it on here?
Is he on?
There we go.
There you
Okay.
go.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I had the pleasure of working alongside my board colleagues for several hours this past month during closed sessions on June 15th, 26th, and 30th to evaluate our superintendent's first year in the job. I really appreciated the discussions about her terrific leadership and the strategic direction of our school system. Together, we created meaningful performance goals for the next school year that will help us better manage academic performance, meet the needs of our students and staff, and ensure we implement Blueprint effectively. On June 20th, I attended the Commissioner's Breakfast at Explorations Commons in Westminster. Commissioner Gordon discussed the county's accomplishments over the past several months and his perspective on the budget process. The commissioners and dozens of others in attendance also discussed challenges that lie ahead, including funding future Blueprint mandates, cannabis use and distribution policies in our county, land use management, and critical shortfalls in housing across the county. All these issues do affect our schools in some fashion, and I appreciate partnering with our commissioners and so many other stakeholders throughout the county to help create meaningful solutions. Yesterday, July 11th, I visited Century High School to watch Coach Ferguson and his staff in action this week. They're having a football skills and drills camp. It was really special for me to watch Coach Dave, whom I served alongside in the Navy. He taught my son and over 100 other young men how to be safe on the field and improve their game. I know it's warm outside now, but I'm really looking forward to Friday Night Lights in Carroll this fall. And I really appreciate the efforts of all of our high school sports programs, the teams, and the coaching staffs across the county to work with our students now so they can bring back those championship trophies later in the school year. And finally, I want to thank our county commissioners for meeting with us this morning, or earlier today, this afternoon rather. As I talk with other Board of Education colleagues throughout the state, and I do quite often, many wish they had the constant communication and relationship we have with our local and state officials. I hope the public knows that we're doing everything we can to implement Blueprint in a cost-effective manner, maintain low teacher-student ratios, and ensure the county's academic performance remains one of the very best in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. I did a couple things here. During the week of the June 26th, I had the opportunity to join some of our social studies teachers as they learned about Carroll County's history as part of a professional learning experience. The teachers spent 4 days visiting local Carroll County historical sites. It started out with the Historical Society. They also went to the former students and friends of Robert Moton High School, Union Mills Homestead, the Farm Museum, and the Strawbridge Shrine, just to say a few. And I would catch them maybe 15 minutes late, and I would catch up with them. And at the Strawbridge Shrine, I was late and had my own personal tour by the curator's husband, so that was kind of nice. And then the fifth day, they spent time writing up lessons, and that can be included in the current curriculum. And I just thought it was so important for those teachers to see what really history's all about here in Carroll County and to promote that. And there were some really good field trips that they should be going on, and for our students to learn about the history of Carroll County. Research shows that teaching history in connection to the students' community significantly increases their interest in history and their willingness to become engaged in their community. So I want to thank Ryan Melhorn, supervisor, for letting me truck along and, taking it all in, because it was. And I did learn a lot of things, and it was really nice to see the gristmill work at the homestead. That guy was amazing, John. And it's come to my attention that there are thousands of dollars available in scholarships that our students are not taking advantage of. I went to a business meeting last month, and I was just like, whoa, I could not believe it. I strongly encourage you to talk to your school counselors, visit our CCPS website, where we have links that you can find more valuable resources about scholarships. You can also You can also visit the website at the Community Foundation of Carroll County, where they support over 75 different scholarships. Scholarships can provide much needed financial support to students and families. We all know how costly furthering your education can be this day and age. So I really wanted to put that out there because I know Catherine's Cause only gave out several scholarships because no one from the other schools even applied for them. And there's a lot of money. And I heard that from several people that just at that one meeting on a related topic. You know, I'm old school. If you're a recipient of a scholarship, please take the time to write a thank you note. That was the other thing, excuse me, that really concerned me because at this business meeting, I don't know what made me ask this question, but I said, how many thank you notes do you get? I wanted to crawl under the table. I had one group that said, and I know they've been given scholarships for a long time, and they said no thank you notes at all. And I had another one say that they've given out, they received 3 thank you notes. And I'm talking about they give scholarships to every high school in the county every year. Please write them a thank you note so that, you know, they continue their hard work. That just was a heartbreaker for me. And it's just a simple gesture that means a lot. So, organizations really appreciate hearing from you and what you're going to do in the next step. So they want to make sure that their investment is paying off. A short note affirms the values and significance of their contributions, encourage their continued support. So please, get out there, guys, and get those scholarships. But at the end, please thank them. That's a very important part. And 2 more things. I'm back on my soapbox again. MSDE, it is time for our test results. We need them. I'm telling you right now. And I know I'm not their favorite person, but I am talking for the children of Carroll County. And it's summertime, and we're trying to improve our students' test scores, and we really need our test results back. And hats off to the commissioners today. We had a really fantastic meeting. We probably could have stayed there for another hour or 2 discussing things that we really need to work on. But I want to thank the people over there. It was a wonderful meeting, and we will look forward to meeting them again and also having a meeting with the commissioners and the delegation because we really need to work on this blueprint together. Ms. Savigny.
Ms. Herbert, I love your point about the MCAP results. I know that we can't, we're probably not some of the favorite folks down there.
Oh, no, we're not.
But how do we make the point of summertime is really when we need to be seeing these results?
It's the critical part.
It's the critical point. This is the time when we're working on those plans for the next school year. And, not getting those results until December or January every year defeats the entire purpose of getting those results. So can we join with other counties or something just to make a statement about when it would be more beneficial to get these results?
I don't know the answer. I've already been down there once this year, and I'm just looking out for our students, and it's very important for us with our curriculum.
I think MSDE knows and understands that we need our data faster in order to make informed decisions on our school improvement plans for the upcoming school year. And my hope is that since MCAP had new questions and some new questions and new aspects last year that took some more time to score, that this process will speed up. And my hope is that we'll get them much sooner this year. Mr. Wernick, have you heard at all about when the results will be in? Okay.
Well, I'll take the hit for it. Don't blame her for me running my mouth tonight, Dr. McCabe. But, you know, I'll take the heat. I don't care. We need those for our students of Carroll County. And I'll be back next month and asking again, or you'll hear me. I'm sorry, but that's the way it goes. All right. Dr. McCabe, you may give your report after you shove me down 6 feet.
First, I'd just like to echo what the board members have said so far, in that we had a very productive meeting today with the commissioners. It was a productive meeting, and one in which I think we're all gaining more understanding about what the blueprint will mean for CCPS for next year. And so I just want to thank them for their support. Next, I'd like to congratulate Trisha Savila, a rising 9th grader at Century High School, who was one of 21 state winners in the annual poster contest sponsored by the Maryland Council on Economic Education. Trisha created her poster as an 8th grade student in Carroll Shopper's Family and Consumer Sciences class at Sykesville Middle. This contest is open to Maryland students in grades K through 8 and helps teachers stimulate interest in learning basic economic and personal finance concepts. Trisha's poster focused on taxes. Next, congratulations as well to the Mental Health Subcommittee of our School Health Council for receiving the Partnership for a Healthier Carroll County 2023 Worksite Wellness Award. The subcommittee was established during the 21-22 school year with the mission to improve the school community's mental health and well-being by providing information, activities, and services designed to support staff and their families. Based on the results of an employee survey, they planned activities including paint and trivia nights to support employee wellness. The subcommittee also publishes a quarterly wellness newsletter and maintains a page on the Human Resources District Share. And finally, a few weeks ago, I had an opportunity to take a tour of the new East Middle School building. We're very excited and are looking forward to welcoming students and staff to this wonderful new facility at the beginning of the new school year. Thank you to everyone who has worked so hard to make this new school a reality. And we will be bringing board members and other officials through next month, so that will be very exciting.
Okay. Well, thank you. Now we will move on to the school construction report. And we gave the president of the commissioners a break today, thanks to Mr. O'Neill. And thank you, Mr. Marks, for sending it over. And they were very appreciative of it, and they're going to put it somewhere in the county office building. This is the first brick, so thank you. Anybody have any comments, questions? And I know I'm going to look right to my left, Ms. Savigny.
How did you know? No, I just wanted to ask Mr. Marks, like, the same question that I've been asking the last couple of months. Anything that concerns you with having East Middle ready on time for the new school year?
Well, as with a schedule like this, there's a lot of stuff that concerns me, but we go over it every single day, all of the critical things that are on our, attention list that need the attention, the furniture, the routing, the asphalt that we're trying to get in quickly, trying to get the admin in right now for an early occupancy so that they can function their roles before we bring the teachers and students back, of course, for the opening. But we're fine right now. We're okay. So I was engaging with the construction manager yesterday about what they're doing in the next couple of weeks, how it's flowing, and they're on top of things and they're doing well. So we don't see a very big concern about missing the opening at all. We know that the planned date of August 10th, for our occupancy date and substantial completion is around the corner, and it doesn't leave us a lot of time. So we're doing everything we can to make it as smooth as possible. We'll have some hiccups, we know that, but we'll work through them. So we got great teams on this.
Okay. Thank you, because I don't want to have to put a tent up because they're tearing the old school down.
Right.
Yes.
And the bus loops are not going to be ready as future, like the final state, right? Are
Correct.
not going to be ready on day one for
Correct.
school, right? So
Correct, and that was always planned that way. It's not a surprise or a change in our schedule or process. It was planned that way because we need all that dirt from where the school is now. We need 60,000 yards to go down to the lower track, the old track area, to build that up for its finished product too. So there will be some activity when school starts. You know, we're going to get down as much of the building as we can to minimize noise and distractions, you know, when school starts. But we will have trucks moving safely not on the staff parking side. It'll be more on the back side towards the skate park with our own dedicated lanes for trucks going back and forth, bringing that dirt down. We'll have it fenced off. We'll have it fully secured, kind of like how we did it already, how we built the new school. We'll have it fully divided and safe for that to happen.
thanks for that update. I mean, I know that we've talked about that before. I just wanted to make sure that we said it again, just so that, you know, when some people tune in and at different points in time, just, you know, that we say it as often as possible so
No.
it doesn't catch anybody by surprise.
I agree. I think that's a great idea. I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Dr. Dorsey?
And I see the relocatable classroom sitting there on the parking lot at Friendship Valley.
Yes.
Have we decided yet where it's being placed?
Oh, yes, it's fully designed and approved from the county. They'll be putting the foundations in next week. And
So facing the building, it's going to go?
it would be in the back where the loading dock and basketball court is.
Okay.
In
I
the
may have
back.
asked you before, but I couldn't remember. And
That's
when I
fine.
saw it, it's like, oh, it's here,
Yes.
but where is it going?
Yeah,
Okay.
Principal Murray and I worked out that location. We kept it away from the quad on the other side, where obviously there's hopefully going to be an addition someday soon there. So we wanted to keep that away from that and still have good activity. I think that's fifth grade wing on that side. So they have a nice doorway to go in and out of and stay out of harm's way with load. They're not in the loading dock area. They have their own access way. So we'll make it nice and safe.
All right. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Oops.
Ms. Hubbard, just, and this isn't a question for Mr. Marks, but just kind of in general about school construction, we did have a pretty robust conversation with Mr. Zaleski at the commissioner meeting today. And I was wondering if it might be a good idea to, you know, when we have our CIP meetings in September, because we approve it in October, right? Which means we have like the work session and the discussions in September. If it might make sense to invite Ted to join us in those discussions so that we can kind of put pen to paper in what he was talking about in terms of funds available and, you know, debt service and things like that. So just we can get our arms a little bit around it better as a group, saying these are the funds that are available. And it's just to kind of help out with the whole planning process, that we're not putting an aspirational CIP out there that has no hope of being approved, or does it have hope of being approved, right? So if we could maybe collaborate with Mr. Zaleski for that work session.
Okay. Smart move.
We certainly do all the time, and we have those numbers. They share those numbers staff to staff freely. Your CIP is always aspirational and never fully funded. So it just becomes a matter of what can they fund or what do they feel comfortable funding, and whether or not they would reprioritize the way the Board of Ed prioritizes things. So if Ted were to make a recommendation that the board's asked for these things in this order, but we can't do that, so we could do this thing if we move it up. There's been some things like that. Maybe we have historically had work sessions, but not always. Maybe we could and have Ted and one of the ex officio commissioners there to have that kind of conversation. It's touchy. We've always viewed it like you set your needs analysis in your master plan and you make a budget request, just like you do an operating budget request, but it's their lane to determine how much they can fund. We've never sort of delved below to say, well, we think you could fund more, or that sort of thing.
Right, and I don't think that we'd be saying, pushing them to fund more, but just helping them maybe. I just thought it was a great conversation today. And if we could have those kind of conversations like, okay, well, help us understand your needs they don't have the ability necessarily to go through our entire needs analysis. They had some specific questions today about, well, why did you choose the smaller project at Freedom and the larger project at Sykesville, to just have a direct dialogue about that in the context of the CIP rather than it just being, kind of a quick agenda item at a joint meeting or something, just to have active conversation.
And we certainly have the sort of the number that Ted referred to today, sort of the balance to carry forward or something. We have all those numbers, debt everything they planned in, and debt service coming in and out, and what the balance is carrying forward. Maybe we could share it administratively, and then as you get closer to the work session, figure out what you'd want to do with that specifically at the.
Right. I think that would be helpful because it's kind of the second half of, we developed the FCI numbers and, trying to understand this is an annual slug of money that we have to put in order to maintain the condition of the school system. Well, how does that compare to the money that's, Ted was talking today about, you've got your debt service amounts or you've got your cash amounts, right? Like, so let's talk about how much there really is there, versus what we're requesting.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. I think if you want to have a work session, and I don't think Ted meant this, but I don't think it's an all or nothing. I mean, he was giving examples, but I think some cash spent, some things bonded is how the capital program works and moves over time.
Right.
So there's a balance there, both of those things.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else? Jim Marks, it's called job security, getting ready to build more things. Just want to let you know that, so don't think about retiring.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to approval of award of bids, please. Dr. McCabe.
So this evening, we have 7 items. I'll move through the 7 items, and then we can discuss any questions that you may have. The first is carpentry machinery for the Career and Tech Center. This is part of the ongoing outfitting of the Career and Tech Center. The second item is mental health services. This award is to add a third service provider to provide mental health services to students and families in need of intervention and prevention services. 3, scoreboard and backboard for Carrolltown Elementary. This award is funded through the County Rec and Parks. The fourth item is medical benefits, prescription drug plan, and stop-loss insurance. This award is for our employee medical benefits, prescription drug plan, and stop-loss insurance. I am pleased that the award as presented will result in a savings of almost $4 million in 2024. Benefits are important to our employees and our efforts to recruit and retain our high-quality workforce, so I am happy to make this recommendation, which is to the incumbent provider, which also contributes to consistency and continuity for employees. 5th, Medicare Advantage Plan. This contract is for supplemental coverage for our retirees who are eligible for Medicare. This award is also with the incumbent provider and reflects a 15% reduction or $400,000 in savings. 6th, playground systems, playground equipment for Piney Ridge Elementary. These next 2 items are for the purchase and installation of playgrounds. At Piney Ridge, this award is funded by a state capital grant secured by the Carroll County delegation. And last, playground systems, playground equipment, Runnymede Elementary. And the award for Runnymede is funded through a combination of a state grant from the delegation as well, supplementing a prior award based on their PTA/PTO fundraising.
Thank you, Dr. McCabe. Ms. Battaglia.
I did have a question regarding the mental health services. And this is an added layer on top of Youth Service Bureau. Okay.
Yes, we still will, come on up, Mr. Streaker. We still have our partnership with the Youth Services Bureau, but this would be on top of that, and they would provide something a little bit different.
Yeah, Board Member Battaglia, we have a MOUs with 4 years ago, we put an RFP out for providers. We had 3 providers at the time, one of which, actually the year we put in place, left. Villa Maria left Carroll County. So these are providers to serve students with medical assistance in schools that provide mental health services in our schools. And what we found is with the need that we have and the provider's scarcity of resource, we needed to bring on someone else. So we put a new RFP out. And rather than saying that they needed to serve the entire county as the original RFP was, we allowed it to break up by region. So we were able to onboard another agency And then next time when we do our 5-year RFP, we'll include that as to be able to be the entire county or a specific region, because that way we can best manage that. Mr. Goda, the coordinator of mental health and student services, kind of coordinates those efforts throughout the system.
Thank you.
Sure.
So, Mr. Stricker, it does say that Ascend is the third, would be the third. The other two are, is it the
Advanced
Services
Behavioral
Bureau?
Health and Life Renewal. Thank you, Ms. Gramata.
Okay.
That's the nicest thing you've done for me in a long time. Just saying. We go way back.
I'm looking at action items. Okay, time out.
Yes.
I don't mess up a lot, but this is an action item, and I'm usually looking at action items on page 2 and 3. Well, this is on the first. I need a motion for the approval of award of bids.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey, and thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, Donna, okay.
Okay.
So now now keep on talking, but anyway, I just wanted to clarify before I get yelled at or someone sends me a nasty note that I didn't follow some kind of procedure. Thank you, Dr. Dorsey. But yes, we're usually back 2 or 3 pages back on action items. So anyway, we're moving along tonight. Keep on going.
Just any other questions about that? That was fine.
Not about that one.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on this?
Not about the mental health piece.
Okay, right. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question about medical benefits and Medicare Advantage plan. No problem with the savings. I love the savings. I really appreciate it. And a lot of people don't understand healthcare. I do. I'm in that industry, but a lot of these providers, you have to take the same medical coverage and prescription coverage. They kind of bundle them. So I get that. I'm just curious if we've invited other major carriers well, 2 questions. One, have we invited other major carriers like Humana, Hopkins, or any other, because again, just to see if we can get competitive bidding, number one. And then the second question is with regard to the employee satisfaction. I really have no idea whether or not our employees like Aetna. And so to me, that would be a huge factor in whether I support or not support. I'm not saying now, but later. I would really like to have some sort of gauge from how our employees feel about these providers.
Sure. Let me try to remember everything. Couple of things. We bid them individually so that any provider could bid. Even stop loss this year was bid individually, although no single stop loss provider responded, and so therefore we bundled that. We also involve our consultants from Bolton Partner and partners in the process of designing scope of bid, reviewing analysis, that sort of thing. So, Mr. Whistler, other providers are solicited. I can't stand here honestly right this second and tell you whether Humana specifically
Sure, and that's okay. I'm just,
but all are invited, and employee satisfaction generally has been very comfortable and happy with the current provider, and I think
you like it.
I'm going to speak just for myself,
Yeah.
but overall, I think we are very happy. It's a good plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I did okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure our employees like it.
I'm going to interrupt on that too, because me being an educator, and I've had Aetna, it seems like forever, but I am telling you, our teachers, our educators, are very happy to have that, and the continuation of the same healthcare system also helps. But I personally have, and all these years, I've only ever heard of 1 or 2 people being dissatisfied with Aetna. And I will tell you, that is a big retention to keep our people here in Carroll County. We don't have the biggest raises, but they love our health insurance. That's a biggie. And if we can provide that's a win for us. And I know, Dr. Dorsey, you know about our plan too, because they have been very faithful to us, and that's a win for Carroll County Board of Education to keep them in consistency. But I know, yes, we do need to bid, but they have been very good to us, and especially since they're saving us a lot of money this year.
And I agree with that.
I'm sorry, Doctor. And the feedback's qualitative, admittedly, meaning I didn't do surveys and collect individual survey responses, but I do engage the employee groups and the retiree group, and especially if something's going out to bid. Hey, no surprises here. It's the time for the bid, and here's the process and the timelines. And then I do reach out, and they know I reached out to them to say, hey, it's on this board meeting agenda tonight. And to a bargaining unit, the question has been, are we changing providers? And not
'Cause they
in
don't want that.
not in a good way.
They
right,
do not
because
want that.
They've been generally happy, and they want continuity of network
Mm-hmm.
to know that they can keep their own physicians, specialists, whatever. So the feedback's been generally.
And that's a big thing. They want to keep their physicians, and continuing with Aetna keeps that continuity. And that's a big thing in healthcare.
Yeah.
It really is. Ms. Savigny, did you want to say something? Are you finished, Mr. Whistler? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
I did just have a couple of questions about what was driving again, like Mr. Whistler said, I'd love to see the reductions, right? So the $4 million on the prescription drug plan and the 15% on the Medicare Advantage plan. What's driving those decreases? Have we had very good experience the last couple of years?
We have had very good experience until this last year. But usually when you put it out to bid is a great time for the providers to sharpen their pencils as well on sort of the fee aspects. Claims were much higher this year. We're still kind of combing through some analysis, but the initial analysis it's a combination of a few things. Eventually they'll get more information, I think, the actuaries, but people deferred certain things, I think, during the pandemic year or two, and then undertook procedure, because there's an increase in certain procedures that you wouldn't expect to see that many of that in a given year. Medical inflation is up 5 to 7% or so here or there, and we do have several employees who are sort of at or hitting individual stop loss numbers, and that may just be a moment in time, but it's unusual to be at that place where you have more than a single employee hitting individual stop loss. So I don't know that I yet view it as a trend by any means, but claims were higher this past year than the previous 5 to 10 years.
Okay. And in terms of the renewal costs, is there anything binding in terms of the renewal options? Like, can they raise rates up to a certain percentage and we have to take it? Or are there any stipulations on the renewal options?
No. But we have the option to renew on annual increments or not. So if we became unhappy with service or there were large employee complaints all of a sudden. There is one other thing at play here that I started to consider putting in the narrative, and then I didn't want to confuse it, and it's minor. In the grand scheme of this budget is minor. But we do use a third-party online enrollment software. And there is a tiny savings, so it is minor, but there's a tiny savings also to be realized there by not changing providers. If we did change providers, we'd have to spend a little bit of money to change the online structure of enrollment and open enrollment, that sort of thing. So there's another avoided cost, I guess I would say, on that end of things.
Is that kind of part of the rationale between Aetna and Employers Health? I know there's a discussion, a short discussion in here as to why Employers Health wasn't really the lowest bid.
Mathematically, there would be one combination that would be slightly lower, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't much. And overall, given continuity, given the bundled savings of everything, because there's also an Aetna savings of, I think, almost $400,000 on Medicare Advantage if we take the whole bundle, and so that's helpful. And I don't want to say, I want to be careful what I say here publicly, because we don't have any concerns about Employers Health, but it's sort of a different sort of a structure with some different fees that we're not used to, that their trustees, for lack of a better term, could adjust or raise. And that, I think that gets to your prior question, which left me a little less sure. It's a service contract, so we bid it on points, or evaluated on points ultimately. That was the collective feeling of everyone who's been involved up to it, including me, and then my talks with the superintendent, Bolton Partners, et cetera, to go this way. And the savings, when you add up all the savings between the 3 active employee plans here, including stop loss and Medicare Advantage, it comes to $4.13 million, I think, or
Right.
yeah.
It was a substantial number.
It's a substantial savings,
Yeah, I totally understand that. And I was going to say, I don't really like having only a short list of one carrier on the Medicare Advantage plan, but when you see the combination of everything else, it's like, okay, that completely makes sense.
And that's, a group we do get immediate and frequent feedback from our retirees, and they're very clear that this would be their preference. So if you're looking for satisfaction.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions about the award of bids? All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now we're still on action items. Sorry about that. I need a motion for the approval of revisions to Board Policy ADD, Threats, Violent Acts, and Weapons Prohibited, Administrative Regulation for Board Policy ADD, Threats, Violent Acts, Firearms, and Weapons Prohibited, first of two, Administration Regulation for Board Policy ADD, Workplace-Related Threats, Violence Acts, and Weapons Prohibited, second of two regulations.
We're,
Okay, so moved by Tara, seconded by
I'll second.
Donna. Thank you.
we are returning for your action 3 policies that we presented last month for discussion. They have been submitted for public feedback and returned now for your approval. Mr. Streeter, who shared the substantive updates last month, is here for any questions.
Ms. Savigny.
I didn't really see substantive changes, like it was just kind of adding definitions and it made sense. There was one question, but this was not a change in the administrative regulations. I just wanted to kind of understand it a little bit better. I'm not sure what page 5 of the administrative reg 1 of 2.
1, okay.
So I'll give everybody a second to find it. Okay, so, Mr. Streeter, under item 6A, it says, if a student is identified as disabled and brings a firearm onto school property, see exceptions. Can you explain which exceptions that's referring to and what is the situation?
Sure. Under ADA, we'd have to consider if the student's disability was a factor in that. So it triggers, a student with a disability triggers other processes that we would have to put in place. First of which to be evaluated if the disability was a contributing factor before any discipline was levied. So that's essentially what that's trying to articulate.
Okay, so it's not an exception to the policy, it just kind of, it
triggers other
additional things that have to happen?
Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
Okay, great. That's all I had.
All right. I see no other discussion. I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of revisions to Board Policy EFE, Comprehensive School Health Program and Wellness Policy.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by Ms. Battaglia.
Any questions for Mr. Streeter?
Mr. Whistler.
I appreciate efforts to update the policy with regards to the health program and wellness policy. One of the things that really just made me question is I didn't really see any language in here which essentially mandates that parents be notified of any kind of treatment plan, that parents concur with any kind of treatment plan that a staff member or a contracted entity may perform. I'm just curious if that mandate is somewhere in here.
I don't think this policy doesn't oversee that part of that. That would be more of our health services, like manual, our practices in health services, that would not be related to this. This is more, like, again, it's the title by its nature, it's the comprehensive, so it's an overarching, because it combines curricular-related pieces, health services-related pieces, food services-related in this capacity. So this is not where that would be pointed out.
So like on page 9, where it talks about counseling, psychological and social services, that's really my concern.
Page 9 of
Page 9, page
regulation.
10, yes. School counseling, behavior support specialists, school psychologists, PPWs, mental health therapists. I'm just really concerned. For me, I would like to see some sort of language that mandates that parents be notified of any kind of treatment that is prescribed or done by a staff member, that parents not only are notified, but they concur with any kind of counseling efforts or treatment efforts. I just don't want to see us get into a situation where a student is receiving, especially, those services I just talked about, and parents not being notified, or there being no concurrence from a parent, that we can go ahead and do that to a student.
So a school psychologist needs the permission of a parent to engage. They could do an observation of a student, but if a school psychologist was going to engage a student through the lens of an IEP service or outside the IEP, students with gen ed can receive services from a school psychologist, but parents are included in that. Part of the SST process, if we have a student exhibiting behaviors that are concerning and the teams are talking about that, they may ask a school psychologist as part of that process to, as a member of that student services team, to come in and do an observation to see if there's anything they can pick up on for strategies for teachers, for different motivations, for different plans for students. But if a school psychologist were to engage a student in an individual, we have to get permission from the parents beforehand. And mental health therapists are licensed clinicians, and they have the same standard when it comes to that before they engage in anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Savigny?
Ms. Herbert, thanks. On page 2 of the policy, under counseling, psychological, and social services, that last sentence says, services are provided in a collaborative manner with the schools, families, and community. I'd like to suggest changing that to crossing off the word like schools, families, and change that to students, families. The families don't belong to the schools. The families belong to the students. And so I just think it's a little bit vague on what we actually mean there. I'd like to say that it's the students' families that we're collaborating with.
Is that, you're talking about in the new, Ms. Savigny, I'm just trying to help
Yeah,
find it.
the last sentence in the...
Under counseling, psychological, and social services?
Yeah. Where it says in a collaborative manner with the schools, families, and community. I'd like to say in a collaborative manner with the students, families, and community. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of gets at, Mr. Whistler, a little bit of what you're saying, like the parents have to be involved, right? Like I just don't want there to be any confusion as to what we're referring to.
I just don't want any staff member to assume that they can embark on a clinical practice or a service that, number one, is never under a parent's notification and concurrence. That's just my major concern.
From a treatment perspective, I hear that, and I do think what Board Member Savigny is suggesting would help to clarify that.
I just don't want to see us get into the situation that we see in other parts of the country, where staff think that they can not notify a parent, not include a parent, but more importantly, not get a parent's concurrence before they take action and embark on a treatment.
And I do understand that. I do want to clarify, though, school counseling through the duty to warn, school counselors, which are not, they're not licensed in the same way that like a mental health therapist would be. School counselors serve all students, and school counselors interact with students, and the confidentiality standard for that is if there's a duty to warn the parents of safety issues. So that is not treatment from our perspective. It's brief, strategic. Our job as school counselors is to support students in their ability to engage in instruction. But I do want to clarify that piece so that there's not someone wondering, if a school counselor saw my child, do I get a phone call every time that happens?
Oh, no, I'm not saying we need to go that far.
Sure.
I just want to make sure that parents are notified, parents have access to records, and parents will concur before any kind of substantial treatment is done by any staff member in our school.
Many, if not most, of our students who work with a social worker or a mental health therapist or a school psychologist receive special education services. In those instances, families are part of that annual review of the IEP. There's goals, there's progress monitoring. Families are very informed and engaged, and in that process, the family is aware of the specific goals and objectives that's part of that service delivered through the IEP. So that's the majority of our students that probably fall under this category, which is, again, it's different because it has to be different for our students with disabilities, but it's very clear, families are very informed, and there's lots of progress monitoring that goes with that.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
So I just have a question regarding a specific scenario. I'm not sure if this applies to clinical psychologists, but maybe school counselors as well. I'm wondering, what if a student goes to a counselor requesting that their parents do not be notified of a meeting in regards to their own safety? This is a very individual scenario that does not happen often, but I would like to see how that runs down.
The judgment that the counselor would have to make in that is the vehicle we would usually use in that situation is Department of Social Services. We would be making a report. So if a student is expressing that they're unsafe for a variety of reasons, if that setting is at home that they're unsafe, then we would be calling our partners and making a Department of Social Services report, which we're all mandated reporters. So that would trigger any educator to have to make that report. And then they respond. Basically, we hand that off to them and we follow up with them as they would respect. Sometimes they send people to the school immediately, which is exceptionally rare, but sometimes that can happen.
All right, thank you.
All right. Seeing no other comments, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
Ms. Herbert, I just want to make sure that that was as amended, right? We did make the
Right.
one.
Yeah.
The one.
So we're
Do I have to go
changing.
back? Okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So then, Ms. Herbert, I would like to make a motion to change the word schools to students,
Students
apostrophe
apostrophe S.
after the S.
I think it's student apostrophe S because it's the individual student's family.
The individual students' families, you're right, student
Correct?
apostrophe
Okay.
S.
No, that's why we do this.
That's right.
I was a math guy. Come on.
Okay. So to change schools to students apostrophe S at the end of the counseling, psychological, and social services section.
I need a second. Second by Mr. Whistler. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the,
We had the original motion.
the policy is amended.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by?
I'll second.
By Donna Savigny. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now, we are going to the approval of personnel appointments.
We've got one more.
But I was hoping we were just going to skip that.
I would have walked away if I was.
All right,
Trust me.
okay, sorry. Now I need a motion for the approval of the revision to Board Policy JIH, Student Searches and Seizures, Administrative Regulation JIH, Student Searches and Seizures.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Whistler.
That was
See, they're moving this
really
meeting
fast,
along,
so
and I'm
moved.
usually the one pushing. Okay, Dr. Dorsey, second. All right. Okay, comments, questions?
I do need to point out one change, just so you're aware, because I caught that today, and I apologize. It's in the regulation. In the regulation, the change that we made based on feedback regarding making sure it's exceptionally clear that personal searches are made in the presence of a third party. When I made that edit, I neglected to make it on regulation. It's on section I, B3 and C3. I'm going to make the exact same parallel language in that exists in G2. So just to clarify that that's in addition to that reg.
All right.
And that's not part of the policy, so technically
Okay.
not voting, but I did want to make sure that everyone was clear on that change.
Which one again?
Excuse me? Repeat that again.
So the regulation, the first page of the regulation, under Roman numeral I, B, number 3, I neglected to add the language about, which is bolded for you, probably the best place for you to look. If you look on page 2, letter G, number 2, what's in bold is personal searches must be made in the presence of a third party. To make sure that that's clear, that language should have also been included in B3. I feel like I'm playing Battleship on page 1. And on page 2, it's under 3, it's letter C3. That parallel language, when possible, it needs to add that language. That make sure that it's very clear that all searches are conducted in the presence of a third party.
So I made a mistake, you made a
I
mistake
made-
tonight. So we're good tonight. Anything else?
So that's basically just where the capital letters are bolded. That was the change since the last time we saw it.
Correct.
Okay,
Want to make, that's a change from the last time, yes.
got it.
All right. Dr. Dorsey.
Okay, what about on the next to the last page of the regulations, under I, search by police? It sort of sounds conflicting in one sense. Number 2, it says school officials should cooperate with the police officers performing the search, but not conduct.
We can't conduct a search at the request of an officer. So if a police officer said to us, I have a suspicion of this happening, you need to go search, we're now acting as an agent of the police.
Right, right.
So that's what that's clear. That's literally, I think, directly out of
Could that
Comar.
become a second sentence, though? I mean, we're saying that they should cooperate with the police officers performing the search. But
And you'd have to, I think if you look up 13A080114, I'm pretty confident that that's verbatim from
Okay.
Comar.
All right, well, to me, when I
What's
was
listed
reading
on
it, it's like, okay, I hear what we're saying. I know that we're not allowed to really,
I think what that means with us
Conduct
cooperating
research
would be to get the student out of class, to, like as
Yeah.
it describes, putting the school on a whole, so to minimize any disruption for the student or
you know,
attention.
maybe I was the only one who had a little bit of
Mr. O'Mealy?
clarity with that.
So Comar 13A.08.01.14 provides that a school official may not conduct a search of the person of a student at the request of a police officer unless a search warrant has been issued authorizing the search. It further provides the police officer shall conduct searches of students and the school premises in accordance with their established policies and procedures.
So that I guess what you read last is like number 1,
Right.
like
Right.
we're in alignment. Number 2, when we're saying is we should cooperate with the police officers performing the search, that's really about getting the student. So I don't, we train this. I'm open to any suggestions on how. Are you suggesting we make that 2 sentences?
Well, yeah, I think we're saying that we should cooperate with the police officers performing the search, but I like the way Mr. O'Mealy's first statement regarding that read.
A school official may not conduct a search of the person of a student at the request of a police officer unless a search warrant has been issued authorizing the search. Of course, if a search warrant has been issued, why would we do the search?
Right.
The officer can do the search. So, so that's the exact wording from Comar.
Right. So, just to be clear, in number 2, Dr. Dorsey, you're suggesting is to pull that language that Mr. O'Mealy just read, and do you feel like that, I'm just hearing that and not reading it, that's where my brain is, just cleaning that up to make sure that it's clear that while we cooperate, we don't search at their request?
Yeah, when I was first reading it, my first read through, again, I get the gist of what it's saying, but to me, it's like we're saying, it's a little conflicting. It's saying that we are going to cooperate, but then it's again letting us know that we cannot conduct the searches. So again, I was just thinking it might be made a little more clear if it was a second sentence.
What if we flipped it? As I read it, what if it says, school officials shall not conduct searches as directed by police officers, period. And then the statement, I'm just bringing, it's a regulation, so we can change this out, but the second statement would say something like, school officials should cooperate with police officers if they need to initiate a search or something like that.
Okay,
Would that be acceptable?
okay. And again, it's a regulation.
Right,
and,
but
you
trying
know,
to, I hear what you're saying to
yeah,
make that even clear. Okay.
You wouldn't have to amend anything, but that would just be for
Yes,
clarity,
right.
right? Okay.
I'll work with Mr. Pierce and Mr. Elliott and make sure that that's clear with, and I'll work with school directors, because at the end of the day, we need to make sure it's clear to our principals.
Yes.
So, thank you for bringing that up.
All right. Any other comments? All right, we can call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of personnel appointments.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey, seconded by?
I'll second.
By Ms. Pataglia.
Tonight, we have 2 appointments. The first is Nicole Maloney from Alternative Program Intervention Specialist at Friendship Valley Elementary to Pupil Personnel Worker in Student Services. And the second item we have here is Thomas Riddle, from assistant principal at Manchester Valley High School to principal at Career and Technology Center.
Comments, questions? Well, I'm going to make a comment. I taught that young man. I worked with him at North Carroll High School, and he was the cream of the crop then. And then he was the one of the vice principals at South Carroll, where I was an ambassador, and he was a vice principal at Manvel, where my school is. That's one of my ambassador schools. I'm very happy with that selection. He's a very hard worker, and the main thing is I want that school promoted, and I want those students to be recognized for all the great things they do. That is a gem. So I'm very happy. Any other comments?
I'm going to miss him over at Manval, but that's
Yes.
all right. I got one getting ready to go to be a sophomore. He might see him again at Career and Tech, so we
There you
shall
go.
see.
All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of personnel action items by Ms. Battaglia. You don't have your doctorate yet. Seconded by Mr. Whistler. Thank you. Dr. McCabe.
As is typical for the months of July and August, the personnel action items have many names. This July report includes 117 new hires, 1 retiree, 3 releases from contract, 7 promotions, 21 increases in FTE, and 1 decrease in FTE.
Mr. Whistler.
I just want to make a comment. I saw that we're getting a lot of these great new teachers from McDaniel, and even some state-recognized new teachers. So I'm just happy to see this number, 117 new hires. Keep them coming. I mean, it's just great. Thank you so much.
Any other comments? Dr. Dorsey?
Well, I was just looking, seems like Friendship Valley has a lot of turnover, or a bit of turnover going on in their staff, so I just thought it was interesting as I was going through to see the number of times that we had a change for Friendship Valley.
Dr. Dorsey, I think a lot of those new positions are a result of the new compensatory education positions too that we're putting out there.
Okay, and I think a grade 4 teacher, grade 5 teacher, and kindergarten teacher. I mean, I just saw, some consistent change there.
Sure.
A lot of our classroom teachers have gone for those new
Yes.
compensatory ed positions, and so
So that's left there.
so that's left their positions
Create a little bit of
open.
a vacuum.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now we're trying to fill those classroom positions. Yeah.
I did have a question about, there seem to be a lot of increases of folks that look like maybe they were part-time, now going to full-time. Was that elected by the folks, or have we made a conscious effort to do away with part-time positions?
So a part-time person, if we're looking to have the position go full-time, they are one of the folks that we'll look at as far as, whether they get that position or not. They will be considered. But we don't just make a position full-time because someone requests full-time. We have to do a needs analysis and see the need for more FTE in whatever area it's in.
Okay.
And a lot of that comes down to, I know in the high school, if we have students want to do more theater or more English, and they might have been a tenth of an English teacher, and the English area has grown, and they need a tenth of a teacher. Of course, if your 0.8 is doing well, then you would pick that up. I'll be quiet.
Mr. O'Neill just pointed out, very good point too, that because of the some of the compensatory education funded positions, maybe split funded or maybe an increase that we've now been able to do because of having that additional funding. That's a factor in all of that too. But we would need to disaggregate that a little bit further. But that could be another factor as to maybe why you see some partials in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't forcing folks that were part-time to go full-time, because, that might have some issues with retention, right? Like, it might kind of encourage people to retire or whatever, when, at a time when we need folks to stay. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the MABE Legal Services Association dues. By Ms. Pataglia, seconded by Dr. Dorsey.
And this is just the approval of the annual dues for the MABE Legal Services Association.
Questions, comments? I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. And 5 p.m. Wednesday, August 9th, we will have a board meeting with public participation in the boardroom at 125 North Court Street here in Westminster. And then on Wednesday, August 23rd, Carroll County State Delegation meeting in the boardroom at 125 North Court Street. And we will be having some work sessions pop up. And I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Ms. Pataglia, seconded by Dr. Dorsey. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Have a good evening, everyone.
You sticking around?
For some of you. It's